Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Twitch, and welcome back for another edition of Lab Rats Culture. And you guys, we got a special one today. We have a very, very special guest in the building. And listen, with accolades that we're going to get into the conversation, but to name a few, listen, over 2 decades reigning in the game. And when I say 2 decades, I don't say it lightly. I mean 2 decades in helping to shape the culture. uh, you cannot ignore an intricate symbol pattern anymore, thanks to the help of this guy. If you encounter dancers wearing basketball shorts and long socks,
all day.
you know what I mean? Like, this is this guy. And if you know a A-list megastar by the name of Justin Timberlake, who has that signature style, thanks to this guy. This guy that I'm talking about is Marty Kudelka. Thank you very much for coming to the lab, brother.
Of
Thank you
course,
very
brother.
much,
Yeah, man. My pleasure. What's up,
Absolutely.
everybody?
Yeah, man. Now listen, I gotta say, the first time that my introduction to Marty Kudelka was making the video for Janet Jackson. Doesn't really matter. I was a huge, huge Janet fan.
Okay.
So of course I knew about Shawnette and Gil and all that. So you were kind of new on the
Brand new,
scene,
man.
right?
Brand new.
But it seemed like, man, right after that, you just kind of exploded onto it. Like, what do you feel like that was kind of the precipice for it? Like,
Yeah, I'm originally from Dallas, Texas.
mm,
I've prior to this, it made me feel real old, but prior for the
mm,
2 decades that I've been in the game
right,
doing stuff here,
right,
um, I was doing stuff back home,
mm-hmm,
and I felt like I shaped, for the most part, my craft back home
mm-hmm,
over a long period of time.
absolutely,
So by the time I came out here to LA, I I won't say that I was like full on ready because I still feel like I got better being here.
mm-hmm,
But I once I got the opportunity, which was really early on, actually my 11th month being here
mm-hmm,
was my first encounter with a superstar, which was Janet Jackson,
mm-hmm,
working for her, which is unheard of. 11
absolutely,
months into the game,
right.
and I'm choreographing for her.
That's
So
crazy.
I
Wow.
put in the work to get to there, even though I got hated on and
Right,
whatnot,
right,
and people seeing me on the same making the video like, who's this white dude coming out of
right,
nowhere,
right.
choreographer like what? We haven't even seen this cat around town,
Yeah.
whatever. But I paid my dues in other ways. I've met Shawnette actually dancing for. She was a choreographer. Her and Gil were a choreography team for a Korean pop star,
Mm,
and I got hired to dance. Me and Sky Hoffman,
mm-hmm,
we were her backup dancers, and that's how I met Shawnette.
mm-hmm,
And through meeting her, um, one thing led to the next. She figured out that I wanted to choreograph.
mm-hmm.
We had a really uncomfortable choreography audition at my house that I had to
Okay.
audition for her, and thought that I just trashed it and it was terrible and I
Right,
would never work in this town ever again,
right, right.
on any level. And then, literally, like 2 days later, driving down the street or driving down the highway, and Janet called me and Shawnette called me and put Janet on the phone, and I almost wrecked my car.
Because
And
you're driving down the
yeah,
freeway,
I'm
and you're all of a sudden
talking to
on the phone with Janet Jackson.
yeah, and I'm going to Agora Hills down the 101 North to teach class for like 6 kids to make like 25 bucks, which at the time I was amped for,
Of course.
until I almost wrecked my car and then pulled over, yada, yada, yada. Next day was on a plane. And
Wow.
since that day, it's been a whirlwind, man.
And Marty, this started from, and I'm talking about your journey here in L.A. because
Sure.
I've heard this story before, but I just like to hear you tell it about you came here on a bus with how much money in your pocket?
I had, well, I came actually, it depends
Okay.
what you've read or where you read it,
Okay.
or which interview,
Okay.
because
Okay.
people have kind of messed it up over the
Okay.
years.
All right.
But the true real story is I was in Dallas. I wanted to come out here to audition. Actually, I don't even think I've ever told this whole part of the story. I
Okay.
wanted to audition for uh Janet's Velvet Rope tour. This is in
Wow.
1997.
Okay.
So before living here,
Right.
I wanted to audition. Teresa Espinosa, who's also from Dallas, was a
Mhm.
friend of mine.
Mhm.
She was already out here. She kind of already hooked up with Tina Landon, who was her choreographer,
Mhm.
and Janet through the club scene and this and that. And then
Mhm.
Tina came and took her class, and so she kind of had it in.
Mhm.
She told me, you should definitely come out here and audition.
Mhm.
And I'm like, cool. So I'm at my studio back home. I'm making okay money, but
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, it's like in a week. I
Right.
need like $800 to get here.
Right.
Um, and plane tickets to stay in the hotel or whatever, yada yada yada. So I have to end up borrowing the money from my sister. I
Mhm.
looked into a trains. I looked into like all this
Mhm.
Amtrak, all this. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm getting there.
Right.
So I end up having to borrow it from my sister. Yada yada yada. What she gave me a guilt trip. If you watch this, you'll laugh now. I had paid her back like years and years later
Right.
with interest,
There you go. Great.
but uh, she definitely guilt tripped me for years and years and years. Um, but yeah, I tried to get out, whatever, any which way I could. Finally bought a plane ticket, came out here, auditioned, got, all the way to the very, very, very end. There was like 15 of us, I think, by like, there was 4 days. It was the most
Mhm.
insane thing I've ever
Mhm.
been a part of as a dancer or even stuff that we've held.
Mhm.
Um, didn't didn't end up getting or we didn't end up finding out here or whatever.
Mhm.
Audition ends, we go to Roscoe's with Tina Landon, like all this stuff,
Oh.
like,
Okay.
Rob Vincent, and I already kind of knew Teresa had the gig, but and
Right.
like Kelly Kono, like I'm like, "Ooh, I'm in there.
Right.
Like this is
Right.
what's up. I'm
Right.
booking the job. Like this is I killed the audition,
Mhm.
whatever, go back home. Teresa calls me one day, oh, you got this. Like, I think you got this.
Right.
Like, you're gonna get the job. I'm
Mhm.
like, no, you're fucking kidding me.
Right. Right.
No, this is my dream. Like, I did want to choreograph more,
Right.
but I'm like, dancing for Janet Jackson, absolutely. So I end up like, yo, well, I'm not gonna get amped
Mhm.
because whatever.
Mhm.
But I'm in Dallas, Texas. You can't help it.
Absolutely.
I go to the studio. I tell my homies, I'm like, yo, I think I might have booked this tour.
Right.
And then about 2 days later, Teresa calls me. I answer the phone. What's up? I don't even know if she remembers all this, but
Right.
I was like, what's up? What's going on? Like, what's the deal?
Right.
She's like, hey, got somebody I wanted you to talk to. I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna happen. Like,
Right.
I'm thinking it's Janet or something,
Right.
but
Right.
and it was Tina. And I'm like, she's like, hey, Marty, it's Tina. I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? So I'm amped
Right.
still.
Right.
And then she tells me like, you came so close, but we're
Damn.
not gonna give you the gig. Yada yada
Mhm.
yada. But whenever you come here, you need to move here ASAP. And when you do, you need to come find me. Tell Teresa whatever. I'll give you my number now,
Mhm.
whatever. But I'm gonna hook you up because
Mhm.
you need to be in this game, and you're so dope. Like whatever.
Right.
Da 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 da. And I'm like,
Wow.
this fucking sucks.
Right.
Got to go back to the studio and tell like, it's not
It's not going
happening. And
well.
then like
Right.
in a couple weeks, they are on the Oprah show doing all these numbers, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
I was supposed to be there.
damn, this sucked. Like it was
Yeah.
terrible. So that was a different story than you asked for, but so jump to almost 2 years later.
Mhm.
I went and saw the tour when they came through town and all
Mhm.
this, and then I decided like, okay, this is fuel again,
Right. Right.
whatever. And I told my studio owner, I actually I saved as much money as possible, which was ironically $800,
Mhm.
and just left my apartment, left my car, uh, whatever. To my studio owner was really cool at the
Mhm.
time, kinda cool. I thought she was cool at the
Right.
time, and
They're cool
and
until you say you got to leave. And
well, until you're successful,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it was cool to leave.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. She go ahead, baby, like
Right.
whatever. And I'm like, cool. Well, I'm taking $800,
Mhm.
whatever, and I'm giving myself 2 months. And if I don't do anything in 2 months, then I'm coming back and I
Mhm.
have my job. The summer's slow in the studio world, anyways.
Right.
So I have my car, my apartment, my job, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, cool, cool. Came out here, lived on Jason Wright's floor slash couch when he
Wow.
was being
Uh-huh.
nice and let me sleep on the couch.
Uh-huh.
Um, and literally like just on a blow up little air mattress or whatever in the corner of his crib, and would walk to auditions, get rides from him, Teresa, Keeley, whoever was
Wow.
around,
Yeah.
and luckily was blessed and started booking stuff like
That's dope. That is so dope. Now
pretty
let me ask
early.
you this: those people that you just mentioned, Jason Wright,
Yep,
Teresa Espinosa, Keely, who is Lock
yep,
and Key, by the way,
yep.
all Dallas, all
All
from Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
It's really dope because it seems like there seemed to be a community there that it seems like looked out for each other, um, all the way around actually, because it's one thing to give words like, yeah, we're gonna be out here soon, and or I'm gonna be moving out in a little bit, but there's another thing to actually have follow up, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it seems like there was a bit of a network that you guys kind of kept in contact with. Now, was that from the jump, like earlier on,
It's weird. I mean, it was a different time, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When
Mm-hmm.
you had to call
Yeah.
a person to
Mm-hmm.
talk to or go see them versus
On a phone,
on a
like on
phone
a
phone.
like a
Yeah.
not a cell phone, right?
No, no,
Like
no, no,
this
no.
is
From your crib to their crib. Yeah, y'all don't know about that. Most of y'all.
you'll know about answering machines.
No, hell no. And when my phone rings at my house, my phone rang the other day and I didn't even realize it was ringing.
Right?
And my wife was like, "Do you want to see who it is?" And I was like, "See what is?"
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like the phone's ringing. I'm like, we got who's calling on our phone?
We got a house
Like
phone.
we got a how? Why? Yeah, I still don't really understand it,
Right,
but
right.
whatever. I didn't
It
check it
comes with the
either.
cable package. It's all
I guess some
good.
shit, whatever. But I'm like nobody I know calling me. So
Right,
if you want to go check it,
right, right.
cool. But it because it was a different time too. Like Roger
Mm-hmm.
Lee is another person who was
Mm-hmm.
was my biggest mentor
Mm.
from Dallas in the dance world. Um, Definitely get that out there. He
Mm-hmm.
was my super mentor, and to this day I still say he's one of the best choreographers I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day I've never seen somebody freestyle like every single style, as much rounded of a
Mm-hmm.
dancer
Mm-hmm.
freestyling to anything at any time under any condition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that could mean a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Better than that dude.
Right.
Like this dude was the shit.
That's
And
amazing.
and
Yeah.
to be from the same city and me happen to, I met him through Jason Wright ish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we all had a connection. It's weird though because we're all in the same city. Me and Roger taught at the same studio, um, but we were the only ones who taught at that studio.
Mm-hmm.
Jason and Keeley actually were. I met them when I met them. They were dancers, but they told me they were singers first. So they were like, "Hey,
Okay.
yeah, we're artists. We dance as well, and we do
Mm-hmm.
choreography and whatever." And like at one point, me and Keeley danced for Jason Wright, and me and Jason danced for Keeley.
Wow. Wow.
And at one point, they were a couple,
Right.
which is still strange, but
Right.
they know it. They both know it's strange. Um, but it was weird because I met all them separately, and then
Mm-hmm.
I met Teresa through the clubs. From
Mm-hmm.
like there was different clubs that people would go to just for freestyle
Mm-hmm.
sessions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So we all knew each other, and Teresa knew Roger. Then I think Teresa maybe met Jason and Keeley through me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all like a spider web, but we all
Right.
knew of each other. And
Mm-hmm.
even before any of us moved here, Teresa was the first one to come. Before that, Jason left Dallas, went to San Antonio for like 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then he moved from there to LA, and a couple months later is when I came.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't seen him in 5 years, but he still was cool enough to
Mm-hmm. To
open
let you
his door
crash
and
and
let me crash and like, yeah, man, come on, like just from
wow.
our relationship before that.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and then immediately, of course, me and Teresa were tight,
Mm-hmm.
and then Keeley, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She had just moved out here a few months, I think, before Jason. So it was
Mm-hmm.
Teresa, Keely, Jason, me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I think it's important to note here too, man. It's just that, especially looking at bigger picture, hindsight being 2020, but just being in the moment, man. It is about. I think LA kind of gets chalked up sometimes into this thing about it's like all about who you know, and that and we in a cheap way we kind of throw that off to like, oh, that's networking. But I think that notion kind of starts way before you know that it even starts, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because you never know who's gonna turn into what and do what. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's just looking back on it, and also just kind of hearing you reach back and kind of put the pieces together. It's kind of incredible that things worked out the way that they did, right?
absolutely.
Because you have these pieces of the puzzle that really brought you out here. But let me backtrack just a little bit further back,
Sure.
because and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but just from other interviews that you've done, I think that I want to touch on that work that you talked about before you got here, you guys, because I want to let you guys know that this wasn't like the overnight sensation, like all of a sudden he was just here and doing this. I believe you said that there was a span of time that you taught 25 dance classes a week for how many years
Like
straight?
4 to 5 years straight.
Y'all,
It's a lot. Me
that's a
and
lot.
Roger, yeah.
That's a lot, and
Yeah.
also honing your craft in that too, because I think it's very easy to get very complacent with that much time of doing the same things, right?
Absolutely.
Things could get monotonous. So what would you say kind of helped you earlier on as you started putting choreography together? What helped you stay fresh?
So here, this is perfect. So the story about Janet and not getting that audition and this
Mm-hmm.
and that, like subconsciously, that did everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, because by that point, I was already teaching that many classes for 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when I left to go audition. And then I came right back, didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, once that happened, I saw them on TV doing their thing. I knew like this is where I'm supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is validation. Like this is, I tasted it
Right.
now. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
There was only like 10 or 15 of us freestyle or doing the combo and freestyle in front of Janet Jackson in the
Right.
studio
Right.
and Van Nuys somewhere. Like
Right.
I'm this, I
Got
can
it.
do this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
So I kind of sat back on my own, and again, some of this was subconsciously, and some of it was consciously.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about like, all right, well, I don't want to just necessarily just be somebody's dancer. I
Right.
do want to choreograph, and I feel like if I'm gonna attack one thing or the other, I'm gonna attack that first.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's what I was put here to do. Roger had also being my mentor, especially choreography wise, had kind of instilled that in me as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this is what
Mm-hmm.
you were supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat back and I looked at everybody's work, and this isn't. I've said this before on interviews. This isn't negative. This is just on anybody's work.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat back and watched everything that was going on at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, can I do that? This is, and I'm watching videos, tours,
Okay.
whatever. Can I do that? Yes. Can I do that? Yep. Can I do that? Okay, cool, cool. So I could have choreographed these videos and tours and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
And then I thought, but I don't want to just do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I could look at some stuff and some stuff would look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I could look at other stuff and that would look the same. And then I'm like, well, you know what? I need to figure out a way to be different
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, there needs to be something that I want people to look at and be able to say, that's Marty Kudelka's shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So at the time I was already kind of, when I would choreograph for years and years before that, I was a musical, like, very into musicality and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured, like, you know what, that's something I'm going to touch on. I'm going to try to do that better than anybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the point where I literally started studying music and listening, dissecting stuff and listening to, like, wait a minute, I think I heard him breathe right there,
Right.
or this hi hat that the producers forgot to move in the sequence
Right.
and it's a
Right.
mess up. or like, yo, I don't think that shit's supposed to be there,
Right.
or hearing like Michael Jackson's snaps, because he would just snap when he's in the studio, and some
Right.
of them are loud and some of them are quiet,
Right.
because it's just picking it up off the mic, and
Right.
I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
So I started learning all this shit
Right.
and breaking apart songs, and once I start doing that, then I became like, okay, now I know the song. Now I'm gonna like figure out a rhythm in my head of what I want to like dance to. What's a
Mm-hmm.
good melody, and then I'm gonna stand up. Then I'm gonna freestyle, and I'm gonna create whatever comes out of my
Wow.
body.
Uh-huh.
Which is still this is to this day is exactly how I still do stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just my like program or whatever that I created within like this is '97
Mm-hmm.
and 2 years before I moved out here.
Right.
So way before I got here, I created this style that later people saw, big
Absolutely.
time with first and I mean the biggest switch was with Justin, but like there was little bitty glimpses and things with Janet and
Mm-hmm.
Pink and a couple other people that I got to work with in between there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came here, I really wanted to get an artist who was able to do that because the shit's hard.
Absolutely.
So I was like, especially it's hard as a dancer doing it. Could somebody sing and do this
Mm-hmm.
shit?
Mm-hmm.
That's even harder.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they can, maybe they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my biggest goal as a choreographer. If I got to choreograph to somebody when I got here,
Mm-hmm.
I just had to wait for that opportunity. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. And what, real quick, what what if you remember right now, what was that? Do you remember the first song that you were listening to that and I know that's like it's hella random of a question, but like I think with something so important being introduced to the culture, like, and I
sure,
have to say that too from my perspective because I was still in Montgomery, Alabama.
yeah,
This was pre YouTube. I couldn't look Marty up on any kind of website. You know
sure,
what I'm
of
saying?
course,
I couldn't do that. So as this kind of started to roll out slowly through music videos and like live performances here and there, there was something that was changing on the landscape and the way that you were moving to certain songs and certain sounds that you were picking up. Was there one particular song or do you remember the first routine that you were like, you know what, I'm about to bring out all of these sounds? I know you just kind of touched on it, but like, do you remember the first one and what was the response? Uh,
yeah. The
when you taught it at the studio.
the I can remember the era.
Okay.
It was Timberland shit.
Okay.
It was
Which is just laced with.
oh my god.
Yeah.
It was Timberland and Magoo shit like Love to Love You.
Yes. Yeah.
All that early, yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all Aaliyah stuff.
Elias. Yep.
I was a big Janet fan too, and
Mm-hmm.
and her stuff wasn't necessarily all lace like that,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I dissected Lonely.
Right.
Like me
Right.
and Roger would learn the real choreography, Tina's choreography, and learn it off the videos,
Right.
and just like a bunch of people,
Of course.
I'm sure you did
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
well.
Of course.
We would learn stuff and do that, but then I was like, I want to do my own shit to
Right.
it. Like
Right.
that shit is super dope, and like
Right.
certain stuff like If or Thriller,
Right.
like I'm not
Which was
gonna
just
ever
timeless. Right.
choreograph
Of
to.
course. Yeah.
But with Lonely, I'm like, her shit is dope, and we
Absolutely.
learned it and we did it and like felt cool, but
Right.
like that song is dope, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
destroy that shit. And
That's dope.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
And so, well, there's something too that I actually wrote down here, as part of the intro. But kind of like I mentioned earlier, man, you really helped the dance world develop a musical ear. Like I'm not gonna be like you're the only one that did it, but like you were a big muscle in that happening, right? Do you know what I mean? And I saw it happening as it came out, and also the power and simplicity. Do you know what I
sure,
mean? Because
or
this was
making it look simple.
or making it look simple.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yeah, making it look
yeah,
simple. Because this was also during a time too, just to paint a picture to those that are listening, watching. This was a time where we had choreographers like Wade Robson, Brian Friedman.
Mhm.
You know, we had Jamie King that was that was doing stuff. Tina Landon even then.
Mhm.
So if you go back and look, there was a lot of the movement was very very full out. You know what I mean? For lack
Absolutely.
of better phrase, not
Sure.
that yours isn't, but
It's different
you
full out.
but it's a different kind of full out,
Yeah.
a very different kind of approach with that.
Sure.
And bruh, it's had legs. It must be such a trip for you to see people just kind of pick up. When was the first time that you saw people kind of pick up on that and try to do it?
It's weird because I never paid attention to it on purpose. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's still weird. I don't know even comment about it
Right, right, of
ish,
course. Yeah.
because I don't know. It's weird because I I get it to a certain extent. Like if I sit back and watch uh World of Dance
Mm-hmm.
or a competition or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I can definitely like I know for a fact I had something to do
Right,
with the like what people are dancing to and how people are listening
right,
to music.
right.
You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
again, like I'm not the only one, of course.
Right.
But I definitely like okay, for sure.
You were a
I
pioneer.
I had something to do with it. Cool.
Absolutely.
But as far as like movement, the way stuff looks,
Mm-hmm.
it's people start coming to me first,
Mm-hmm.
and people want to get mad about it. Like, yo, man, why all these people biting your shit? Like, whatever for years, and then I'm
Right.
like, who? And then some people would like, yo, this person or this person, look,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but I didn't see it as much as them,
Right.
and I don't know if that's just I don't know because sometimes it's imitation is
It's
flattery
flattery.
too,
Yeah.
and but I didn't. I honest to God don't to this day don't see it as much as other people see it.
Right. Right.
And I don't know why that is. Now, if somebody like rips my routine off, like I've walked into like Broadway Dance Center on several occasions and
Mm-hmm.
other studios around the world
Right.
and watch people teach my shit and like
Wow.
had
Okay. Yeah.
issues
Right.
like you're teaching my routine.
Right.
That's different. But just biting a style or being influenced by a style or like I know the people around me, like
Mm-hmm.
my proteges and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's gonna be weird if they don't kind of
Mm-hmm.
emulate what I do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I'm training them.
Absolutely.
You know.
And then, so with that is, and can I ask, is there any other early influences? You mentioned Roger Lee, for
Yep.
sure. Were there any other influences? You know, whether it was dance or through music that inspired your movement? Was there a particular artist that you just hands down love to choreograph to? You know.
I mean, the easy answer: Michael and Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Aaliyah, any Timberland stuff. As far as artists, I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
music was a really, especially creating that style,
Okay.
was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But choreographically, besides Roger Lee, like dance influencers,
Mm-hmm.
um, like Swoop
Shout out Swoop.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the Godfather. Like
Yeah.
to watch him freestyle and be literal, him and Rob Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
like who I
Mm-hmm.
just saw yesterday, by the way.
Word.
Yeah, that's my dude
It's dope.
on many different levels.
All right.
He those two dudes, I saw them freestyle in real life for the first time, like before I lived here too. I
Mm-hmm.
started coming out here for like a week or 2 weeks at a time every summer,
Mm-hmm.
like a few years before I ever moved here.
Mm-hmm.
I would sneak into clubs, not dance, watch
Right.
the circle. The first time I ever went to a club
Right.
here, Poppin' Pete was there, Skeeter Rabbit, Swoop, B-Boy Ivan, the
Mm,
original
mm,
B-Boy
mm,
Ivan,
mm.
urban action figure.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Teresa had just moved here, but like a couple of the original Tony Basil, um, some of the other original lockers were out. Like it was
That's
all these
crazy.
people, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like
Right.
I'm terrible. Like what
Right.
is this? What? Like Flowmaster. This is the first night. And I literally sat there because in Dallas I thought I
I
was
was about to
pretty
say, yeah,
good.
right. Like
Like
in Dallas, you were
I
probably
was,
holding your own
yeah,
because you're also no stranger to the freestyle culture as well. Like there are many different choreographers that don't necessarily
sure,
freestyle, right?
yeah.
So you were no stranger to,
No, no, no,
you
hell
know.
no. I mean, that's still how I make up my shit
Hmm.
is through freestyle. But yeah, but that was definitely a big part of that culture back home. And then even once I moved here, and still am. I don't get down as much as I used to,
Right,
you know,
right,
like,
yeah,
but I'm not opposed to it either. You know what I
right,
mean? I'm definitely, if
absolutely.
the time is
Yeah,
right,
of course,
let's
of
do it.
course, of course.
But it but at that point I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
Right,
And then I would go back home and tell my people like, Roger was an exception. He's always
right,
ahead of the game.
right,
Everybody else, I'm telling my people like, yo, we need to practice.
right.
Like we need, and they're like, yeah, you're just hyped because you just came from there. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
You're like, I'm
And
telling the
come
truth.
with me.
Right,
Like next time I go, let's go. And all the people in my little dance crew would like, yeah, okay, let's go, we're gonna do it next year.
hmm,
Never once did any of those people come. And some of these dudes were better than me.
right,
Like in that area of freestyle and
hmm,
like going to the club and just destroying people
hmm.
in Dallas and never came.
So this is where those one of those situations where hard
Absolutely.
work and focus beat out the talent. You know.
Absolutely, yeah. Cause man, like I still to this day wonder like what happened to some of these dudes? Like
Right.
what they were so talented, so
Absolutely.
dope, man.
I feel like and also I guess with anybody that goes after their dreams without sounding corny, like dream chasers, that really actually go after it. You do surround yourself with like-minded people for a little while, and then you start to see the separation of like
Sure,
who's really out to get it and who is going to stay consistent
sure.
and really go after it. So I mean, listen, you still those people might have fallen off from the wayside, but I think that happened. I think every successful person probably has a couple of stories like that and a
Sure,
couple of
sure.
people like that. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Absolutely.
And I want to switch now into so obviously you got the choreography experience under your belt. Like this is your muscle right now. And you said you had a great quote about your choreography, saying that it's not brain surgery. Is that what was you that or was that a mold of somebody else's
Uh,
quote?
I don't know. I don't remember
Okay,
saying that,
okay,
but but I could have. It's
okay,
but I mean I could make that make sense. It definitely, even though I just like explain breaking how I break down music and study it and then this and that,
right,
to some people that can may seem like brain surgery,
right,
but to me that's my process and it's not that difficult
mm-hmm,
because I've been doing it for so long now
mm-hmm,
too, and it's kind of what I wanted to do and what feels right.
mm-hmm,
And once I do that and go through my little method and hopefully put out the work and
right,
people like it and I
right,
like it, then
right.
cool.
That's dope.
On to the next.
Absolutely. And on to the next indeed, because the next eventually ended up having a class at Millennium, which is legendary dance studio of Los Angeles, and now turning into the world. It seems
Yeah,
like
man.
they're all over the
Everywhere.
place. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you have had or have tried to keep the same class slot at Millennium for the
Pretty
last,
much. Uh,
is it 18?
17
Okay,
years.
17 years now.
Yeah, man. I've been here for 18 years
Mm-hmm.
and like living here for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I started early there too.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how my first class ever came about, and I get asked that a lot too, and I have no idea. But I met Robert and Anne Marie, and somehow or another must have mentioned I teach and I'm here and like I think it was through me being there rehearsing for stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, well, cool, we maybe do a class. And it was pretty early on. It was within a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because I started choreographing for big name artists
Right.
less than a year in too,
Right.
that kind of helped the situation.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I've held the same day at least, Monday and Wednesday,
Right.
since I started teaching there. The times have moved a little bit
Yeah.
depending on, you know, once I started playing fantasy football on
Right.
Mondays,
Right.
I
Then it
wanted
kind of.
to, like, hey, yeah, I might not show up on Mondays unless I get, the 4:30
Right.
spot,
Right.
because football starts at 5:15 on the West Coast.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so and sometimes I try to bogart people,
I got you. I got you.
move the time slot around. But
Absolutely.
yeah, Monday and Wednesday, even though I very rarely in 17 years teach every Monday and Wednesday. Normally, if I teach on a Monday, I won't teach on a Wednesday on purpose,
Right.
because people here get sometimes too jaded.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole, hey man, you want to go take Marty's class? You want to go take Twitch's class? Oh
Right.
yeah, no. You know what? He'll be here on Wednesday. Let's do it on Wednesday.
Right.
No, 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 no. I might not be there on Wednesday. I may
Right.
be watching football on Monday and be there
Right.
on Wednesday. So
So yeah,
yeah,
so when you teach, you want it to be a special
special.
event,
Absolutely.
as it should be.
Don't take it for granted. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So
Very much, man. I love that. And then, so let me ask you this, Marty. So, how, how did you go about keeping a level head? I mean, you'd come out here, and comparatively to other people's journeys, you were kind of put on fast forward, right? You know what I
sure,
mean? From the moment you got here, you
sure.
know. So how, during all of this, you kind of get into this fast lane of being able to work with superstars, and doing incredible work that's been seen and remembered. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Sure,
remember the Doesn't Really Matter video, not just for the visuals of the video. I remember the breakdown. I remember the making of the video
sure.
situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I remember NSYNC's Girlfriend. I remember how different that kind of performance style was for NSYNC at the
sure.
time, right?
I mean, even the song.
Absolutely, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
And then also, of course, we all I think all of us remember the first time that Justin Timberlake made his solo debut. So, how do you, what's your thought process during this time, and how do you keep yourself grounded during this time?
I mean, I'm sure our backgrounds are similar, the way we were brought up.
Right.
Being from the South, and
Mm-hmm.
being humble, and
Absolutely.
so I mean that's my friends back home. If I ever would have like got a big head or thought I was the
Right.
shit or something,
Right.
I would have got my
They
ass
would have had,
whooped
yeah.
or
Yeah.
made fun of, or like, you a dancing dude. What are you talking
Right,
about? Wearing
right,
tight.
right.
So I think even just subconsciously I know
Right,
that could, and that's just not me.
right.
You know, I do feel like those situations, to touch again, like on that Janet not getting that audition type of thing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
kind of made me know, like, okay, this is what I want to do.
mm-hmm.
So then when I get to do these things and I'm doing it
Right.
and I'm in a studio with
Mm-hmm,
Janet,
mm-hmm,
it didn't seem so weird.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to
Dope.
do, because I
Absolutely.
already thought this, and
Right,
I like manifested it in a way,
right.
and like this is this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
There was moments of like, oh shit, this Janet Jackson.
Right,
There was a
right.
funny little story, is literally before we ever even got in the studio,
Mm-hmm,
I got flown to New York. She had a place there.
mm-hmm,
Me and Shawnette were knew we were going to choreograph for her. We were going to start choreographing in New York
mm-hmm,
over like 2-week period or whatever, just
mm-hmm,
whenever she had time. We
mm-hmm.
were going to go to the studio. We
Got
were
it.
going to start on Doesn't Really Matter.
Right, right.
The first day that I get there, like, it was the most surreal shit looking back at it.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole day, even though I'm going to tell you what happened, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it is like a movie.
Right.
But it all felt normal for whatever reason, just because, I don't know.
Because you had been maybe mentally preparing yourself
Mentally
for it in a
preparing
way,
it,
right?
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is what I need to be doing. This is where
Right.
I need to be. But I get there, I go to her crib, which is, in Trump Towers and all
Mm-hmm.
this night, I'm like, cool. We had met before, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the first time we're meeting as, hey, I'm your choreographer now
Wow. Yeah.
in your crib.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. It was her birthday. We go to Nobu in New York. This is
Right.
before Nobu was all everywhere.
Right.
I'm sitting across some like MC Light and Johnny Gill. Q-Tip is sitting next to me, and all this, and I'm
Wow.
like most people would trip out,
Absolutely.
whatever, and I'm like, I know all his music, I know all her music. This is Missy was there,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, cool, cool, like, but it felt like I'm supposed to be there, and I
Right.
think that they also made me feel like I should be
You're
there. No
supposed
one
to be
made me
there.
feel,
Right.
stupid.
Right.
And we're doing all this, and okay, cool, eating, and I'm trying shit that I would never try before. That was the only
Right.
kind of Hollywood shit
Right. Right.
where it's like, oh, you should try this. It's good. I'm like, nah, I don't really get into that. And like, oh, but it's so good. I'm like, oh, it does look good. And I'm trying shit. Only time in my life I've ever done that, and it was for Janet.
Yeah.
And I don't care where I'm at. I'll be like, no disrespect, but I can't do that.
And I have a small story to add to that. I know that because
You did it too?
I know that about you
Oh, okay.
because the Korean artist you work with, Seven. Do you remember
Of
this? You
course I know.
remember?
So
So
yeah.
okay, so when I remember, so
Oh
after
no.
y'all's crew left, I remember going to Korea. I danced with Seven for a while, learned that choreography, and I remember they said, you know what, Marty? He had a simple routine. Like we went and did rehearsals. Then he went to Outback every night.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was like, we offered him the Korean barbecue. We offered him this, and he was
Good.
like, no, I'm all right on all that. Like I'm not. I know what I like to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some real. I remember where the Outback was. Outback or Pizza Hut or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to what I know.
Absolutely.
No disrespect, but yeah, man. But that day with Janet,
Yeah, man.
and we left Nobu. We went to the Cheetah Club, which was Jay-Z mentions in a couple of songs.
Right.
We go there. Jay-Z's there. Busta's there. They're all this VIP thing. We all go there. I'm at that point I was kind of like, all right, this is kind of crazy, that
Right.
all these people. But then I'm like, but it's Janet's birthday, whatever.
Right.
She's introducing me, so they're all cool with me. I'm like, oh, cool, yeah. What's up, man? What's up, Jay?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Right.
We all go on the floor, which was kind of weird too. Like they had like the security made a circle around our circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only time I've ever seen this before. And so the public or whatever can't get to her and them and
Right.
whatever. And I remember Try Again came on,
Mm-hmm.
and I freestyled to the entire song and destroyed it in front of all these people.
Right.
And just like super roasted it.
Right.
And broke down the circle. There was no more circle. Cool,
Right.
cool, cool. Next thing you know, it's just me, Janet, Shawnette in a car going back. They're gonna drop me off at my hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Woo woo, cool, all right, yeah, da da da. Whatever. We get out. I go walk up to my hotel and there's like two doormen there, and then I hear like Marty, and I turn around and Janet rolled down the window and she's like, "This is my first day there," and she's like, "Such a pleasure to hang out with you. Like, thank you for coming. I can't wait till tomorrow to rehearse.
Yeah.
We'll let you know what time, but thank you so much." And da da da. And Shauna's like, "Pete, what's up, Mark? Whatever." I'm like, "Ah, cool. All right, you too. Have a good night." They drive off, and the doorman dudes are like, "Yo, my man, is that Janet Jackson?" I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's my boss. It's who I work for. Yeah, that is. But it's all good, fam. Like, yeah, she's cool.
She'll be back tomorrow to pick me up. It's whatever.
That's
like,
my boss. And I walk in and I feel like I'm the coolest dude
Right.
on earth. So that was the moment of like,
wow.
shit.
Yeah,
like I couldn't
man.
wait to see those dudes the next day when I walked out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I walk out
absolutely.
all cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
What's up, man? Yo, what's up, dog?
Like,
I was
you going to rehearsal, bro?
Yeah, yo, that's the dude I was telling you about. Janet dropped him off last night. Whatever. And I'm yeah, cool. What's your name?
Right. Yeah.
But other than that, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't help that shit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm calling my people back home
That's
the
what
next
I'm
day.
saying.
Like
It has to be the most gratifying
that's
thing,
cool,
right? Like to
Sure.
think on this for so much, and I'm sorry, B, kind of get shown where you can most have it where it's literally at your fingertips and taken away from you for a second, right?
Absolutely.
And had that not served as fuel, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
absolutely.
about that choice.
Yeah, we
Um,
might not be sitting here, you know what I mean?
exactly,
Like that
exactly. Wow.
definitely was a huge shift.
Right, right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And especially it being that artist, the
Mhm,
same artist, and you know what
mhm.
I mean? Like, because if looking back, like if I could have gone back and danced on that tour or
Mhm.
done what I did, hell no.
Right, right. Exactly,
No, I'll go
exactly.
watch it again.
Right.
But I'm doing what
100%.
I was supposed to do.
And it's that what I find really dope, Marty, is that whether you know it or not, what it seems like from the outside is that there's an underlying theme of loyalty um,
Sure.
with you, you know, from the people that you let in your circle, um, which is few, right?
Sure.
Which is few, and also looking back on various projects that you've worked on, and also just hearing the stories that you're telling right now, a lot of the people that you're talking about, you were also able to put on stage with you at some point in time. You know what I mean? So it's incredible that that all throughout this you've also been able to kind of give back to the cycle, not necessarily just take. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the performance that I'm thinking about is the Justin Timberlake performance, the VMAs when Like I Love You came out.
Okay.
You
Yep.
have, I mean, the cast looked massive, by the way. Like, do
Yeah.
you remember how many people were in that cast?
I think there was like 17, 18 people.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And do you remember the process of that performance? Do you remember hiring the homies,
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
rehearsing?
what's funny is that time frame wise, we had already shot the video.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like I feel like why we were comfortable up there too.
Right,
Because that
right,
was the first performance. People hadn't seen the video yet.
right, right,
So that was
right,
the first performance. But to us, we're like, let's just go roast. Like,
right,
let's just go do this
right,
shit, you
right.
know? So actually, the video, this is a good little nugget, is that when I casted the video, I, in the first section, I only wanted two people to be in the first section.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted Rich and Tone to do it. So they were
Mm.
two people
Mm-hmm.
that I looked up to before I knew them.
Right,
And excuse me, by that point, I already knew them and were like really close with them.
right,
And we had talked about like collabing together on choreography, which I'm like, this is be crazy if I
right,
ever get to do
right,
that, you know, whatever. But then I also looked at them like we would go to the clubs together and shit.
right.
And I'm like, these two dudes are the two of the illest
They're dope.
freestylers I've ever seen in my
Yeah.
life. And they can do choreography
Mm-hmm.
and they look alike
Mm-hmm.
and people know them, you know,
Exactly. The
whatever. And I
blueprint is
only
right.
want
Yeah.
two people.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit them and was like, yo, I want you to do, Justin's coming out. This shit is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pharrell did it and it's fucking nuts. And it's
Mm-hmm.
his first single. And I want just y'all two in the first dance scene of the video.
Right.
Yep. All day. Cool, cool, cool.
Right.
Then I casted Sky Hoffman. I had an audition ish
Mm-hmm.
um, at Debbie Reynolds. And, you know, Justin's a taller dude.
Right.
So I'm like, I want, you know, some taller dudes or whatever in this next section, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Sky I was already cool with and knew he was the
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was already close with Dante Harper,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that he
Yep.
could be really clean and whatnot.
Right.
He showed up to the audition and audition, which I thought was really cool
Right.
because I had already worked for. He was the one of the first choreographers that ever hired me to dance, do his stuff.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, you'll come and audition for me too.
Right.
That's kind of dope.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and you killed it.
Right.
And him and Sky looked great. Got the gig. Kevin Federline, he was already a homie of mine. And me and Eddie Morales and Kevin were really good friends because
Mhm.
we toured with Pink together.
Okay.
We groomed Kevin. Kevin knows this, wasn't the best when we met Kevin
Right.
by far. He was from Fresno. He's a good looking white boy
Right.
that could dance all right.
Right.
But through me and Eddie, we made this dude dope.
Dope. Yeah.
Super dope. We would kill him. And even on stage, we would try to take him out
Right.
and like just rough him up and go to clubs and destroy him and make him better and then introduce him to people, Super Dave and other people, like, you know, and
Right.
take him to the clubs too. And like, oh, cool. He got
Right.
nice.
Right.
I mean, he did a Michael Jackson video,
Right.
like,
Right.
you know, whatever. And um, I auditioned for that shit. I didn't get it.
Right.
He got it.
Right.
So he had to be nice. Um, so I hired him. He
Mhm.
auditioned as well. It wasn't just a homie thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then myself, I put in there.
Mhm.
Roger Lee.
Mhm.
Um,
Super Dave was in there.
well, the video, no,
No, not the
just
just the live
the
performance.
live
Okay. Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't in there yet. So
Mhm.
it was just them. That was the crew,
Right.
and then some the girls. And about 2 days before the first rehearsal, Richmond calls me, "Yo, we got a problem. We have a gig. We can't not do it.
Right.
One of us can do it. So is that cool if one of us do the video and one of us does the thing? Like,
Right.
I'm so sorry, like whatever, da da da."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I love you guys, but no, it's both or nothing."
Right. Right.
And they're like, "We totally understand." I'm like, "There's no way," like
Right.
begging them, like, "No, I mean, I mean, there's no way, just one of us, you know, like whatever, da da da." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "It's just not the same.
Right.
I want
Right.
both."
Yeah.
So like, "Nah, but we'll get up again. We'll do something else." All
Right.
right, bet, cool, cool. And to this day, they still like, "Man, we fucking shit, dude. Wish we would have fucking been in the fucking video." So I was like, "Fuck, like
Right.
who can I call?" Eddie.
Yeah.
Called New York. Eddie lived in New York still. "Yo, I need you to fly down here tomorrow. Can you be here tomorrow? Me and you are gonna be in Jay's video." Da-da-da. Bet. That's all it was. He's on a plane.
Wow.
Fly out the next day.
Mhm.
That's why me and him are in the video because they couldn't do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
crazy little
Also, man, y'all just
subplot.
I hope y'all realize the gravity of this situation. We're talking about Rich and Tone's Talladega, man. And you know, and looking back on this now and just hearing the story, man, like you two being on the phone together trying to figure out, y'all are two legendary folks. I'm sorry,
Mm,
two legendary entities already. I mean, that's incredible, man.
It's still,
That's absolutely incredible.
I still close my eyes sometimes and like picture them doing it
Right? Yeah,
because they
that would
would
have
have
been
fucking
crazy.
roasted that shit.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
glad that we ended up being
Oh
in
well,
it,
yeah,
what, you know,
yeah.
whatever. So by the time we did the VMAs, Roger couldn't do it for some reason.
Hmm.
Um, and then I ended up like, you know what? I want to get more people, so on, so
Hmm.
forth. So I hired Jason, Super Dave, Punch,
Oh,
and Eddie. That was the first four, and then me, Kevin, Dante, Sky, the next four, and then a bunch. I think like 8 badass girls.
mm-hmm.
All the A-list at the time too.
Right.
The Lissettes and Michelle Martinez
Yeah,
and
man.
Jenna Dewans, and you get this, that. All right, cool,
Absolutely.
cool, cool.
And also too, you know, I want to also just put in here too that it's really dope. Again, going back to loyalty and kind of putting people on. Like I mentioned earlier, you were you're no stranger to the freestyle culture. So I remember you know K Mel. Um K Mel coming into audition for I think it was the Future Sex Love Sound
Yep,
tour. You
yep.
know what I mean? And K Mel sometimes used to just come in at the end of class and just roast just because and
That's
just
my dog.
roast
Yeah.
just because and even Poppin' Pete. And if I'm not mistaken, did Poppin' Pete do a solo for Justin in a tour?
No, it's Pop and Pete. And first off, and Pop and Pete was one of my biggest uh, inspirations ever before I knew who he was Pop and Pete
Got it.
because of the movie Breaking, of
Breaking, of
course.
course. Hmm.
Um, Never knew what his name was. I just knew
Hmm.
that that dude was the shit.
Right, right.
And then that's what was going back to that story. But the first night I ever went to a club here and seeing him
Hmm.
and putting it together, still not knowing what his name is,
Right,
but like that's a dude from Breaking.
right,
Holy, he's one of the reasons why I dance.
right.
So when Future Sex, I had his son Shoni.
Hmm.
Me and him became friends before the Future Sex project.
Hmm.
he lived with me for a while. We Shoney trained me to pop in boogaloo shit.
Right.
I trained Shoney this new school
Choreography. Yeah.
choreography
Yeah.
style. Even like the way that I don't know the way I freestyle,
Right.
the way I get down or whatever. We would just trade off and
Right.
um, at the time. And Kmel's been a friend of mine for a long time
Mhm.
too. Whatever, and us three specifically too would train a lot at that time, a lot together.
Mhm.
And when I started putting together that project, Future Sex, I started listening to music, and there was a couple songs where I was like, you know what, I want Pete to choreograph to these songs,
Right.
but then I'm like, I want to be a little like selfish,
Right.
and I want to do it with him.
Right. Right.
So Pete and I co-choreographed two songs together. We
Mhm.
choreographed a song and a half together. We did the
Mhm.
Love Stone breakdown together,
Mhm.
and we did Sexy Ladies
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
And what's cool about that is he probably did 85% of the moves on Sexy Ladies,
Mhm.
but I would watch him create, I would learn the moves watching him create,
Mhm.
and I would throw in my 2 cents of what we should dance to.
Mhm.
So, boom, da-dum,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, wait, what about if we do it to this?
Right.
Okay, cool. And then we try it and do it to that.
Right.
And it was the
That's dope.
coolest thing
Yeah.
ever. And
That's
then
so
I'm
dope.
sitting there looking in the mirror, and we're teaching Jay, and like I'm looking at Pete, and like this is
Yeah.
one of the dudes who I'm watching, I'm breaking.
Yeah.
And now but I also too, before we even got to that point, for like 2 weeks, I hired him to come in every day and train all of us, even the girls who weren't going to be in any of those numbers, but to train us, teach the history, and come
Yeah.
in. And it was the coolest thing to give back to
Right.
somebody who didn't. Now he knows how big a part he played in my life,
Right. Right.
but but when we first met, he didn't.
Right. Right.
So to be able to give back, and then also like have him give his skills to
Yeah.
an artist that I'm so close to,
Yeah.
um,
So dope.
and then just train all of us. Period.
Right.
That
I mean,
shit's
that's just
crazy.
it's crazy. I mean, also, man, just the thought of that. I remember the first time I met Pete. I was in Korea, um, working for Seven.
Oh, there you go.
Like that's with Seven, and Pete was the they're all over. The EBs are all over
Of
the world,
course.
right? And Pete just comes in the room, and I'm like, you know what I mean? You kind of
Yeah.
got to hold yourself down as a G and just be
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna freak out right now, but I know exactly who that is walking in the door
Yeah.
right now. And he came in, and I was with what my first teacher is Link from
Uh huh.
Elite Force,
Of course.
and they just start getting down. So I'm in a room with Link and Pete, and they just start getting off, and I'm sitting there. I'm like you in the club, like the
Yep.
first time. I'm just kind of
Absolutely.
sitting there, like, I thought I was good for a second, like, but I'm not. I
Nope.
can't even two step at this moment. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like I just everything is kind of everything is just spinning. It was crazy.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I've
and
seen them do that, by the way. I've been in
dog,
studios before, wherever them two specifically
yeah,
are
like
in there and
that
just start
vibe,
going, getting down. Yeah, man.
absolutely. And let me backtrack a little bit. While we were on the subject of training, and I would love to know your outlook on training, because like I said earlier, you've kind of given Justin like his like signature style. You know what I mean? Or at least that's where I'm saying from my standpoint. I don't know if you
Sure.
feel the same way, but like it's it's Justin, but it's also Marty though. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like, and then I'm talking about from the aesthetic down to the physicalities. You know what I
Sure.
mean? How did you what was your process of taking Justin, who had been used to doing all types of choreography, I'm sure,
Yeah.
like with his NSYNC days and all that.
Sure.
What was it like the first time that you guys worked together, and yeah.
Well, one, like not creating that style necessarily, but I think what it resembles both of us, because what I do with him is take how he naturally moves too. And in the
Mm,
beginning,
mm-hmm.
it wasn't he didn't even know it was happening.
Okay.
But we would go train together. We go to Millennium during the day, like 2 p.m. in the
Mm-hmm.
afternoon. This is before his solo stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I would teach him choreography first, and we would like to somebody else's song,
Mm-hmm.
hard shit.
Mm-hmm.
I would do for class or whatever,
Right.
and just to kind of like just to train him to do really hard shit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not going to be that hard once he has to sing as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to
Right.
be hard, but
Yeah.
at this point, he's just a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I would train him that way. Then we would freestyle. I would see certain things that he would always come back to, like little movements he would do, and I'd remember that. And
Right.
then I start putting that
Right.
into
Okay.
his choreography
Right.
when I start doing it to his songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would feel so naturally and smooth and swagged out,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing like, well, I got that from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it that's how it kind of started, and like then it started like I don't know. He's
Mm-hmm.
really smart too. Like if he sees something that he thinks is cool or dope or fresh,
Right.
like he latches onto it. Whether it's a movement or whether it's a sound when he's with Pharrell and Tim and all
Mm-hmm.
them,
Mm-hmm.
and like, wait, what is that? Do that, play that again, and he'll ask like, what instrument makes that? What is that does
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then the next day he might have a whole beat he did with just that
Right.
sound. You know
Okay.
what I
Got it.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so movement wise too, he used to go to the clubs with us here,
Mm-hmm.
and he would see all these dope ass people, and the Rich and Tone and Super Dave and Punch and Goof and
Mm-hmm.
Eddie and all whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like all of our little clique, and like he would not bite necessarily, but
Yeah.
be influenced.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then when we go to get down, just me and him,
Right.
he's getting my influence as well, and
Mm-hmm.
like it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it manifested, and kind of his style came about.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time that I ever worked with him, I just told the story the other day, is within sync was with Girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I flew to Orlando to Johnny Wright compound. They
Mm-hmm.
used to call it whatever, like, which was super cool back in the
Right.
day.
Right.
Like they had all toys and all a lake with jet skis and all. It was like a
Wow.
it was like a
Wow.
playground for adults.
Right. Right.
And I get there and it's only four of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? Hey, cool, nice to meet you. Cool, cool."
Mm-hmm.
So Justin, he's flying in from so and so, and his flight's delayed or whatever, and like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, we don't know what you want to do, whatever. And I'm like, well, we can start, like,
Yeah.
whatever. And they're like, yeah, because he's gonna learn it so fast, anyways, or whatever. And I'm like, well, you guys will too because it's easy,
Right.
but whatever. So we go in the studio. The
Mm-hmm.
studio was like barely bigger than this,
Right.
and I start showing them the stuff, whatever, and it was easy.
Mm-hmm.
But we spend like an hour and a half on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it, not the whole thing, but 80% done.
Mm-hmm.
Yada yada, finish, cool. Let's take a break. Take a break, cool, cool. Then here comes Justin. Justin, oh hey, Justin's here. What's up,
Mm-hmm.
man? Cool. Yo, good to see you, man. I'd met him before.
Right.
Good to see you, man. Cool, cool. Yo, so I already taught them like 80% of it. You want to go,
Yeah.
like, yeah, man, let's go in here. So just me and him went in the room, and I
Right.
shit you not, like 20 minutes. It was so easy for him.
Yeah.
And so they were right,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, they were right.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Right.
I get it. It is easy, but he also already started like performing that shit, which
Right.
they didn't.
Right. Right. Got it.
So
Yeah.
I'm like in the mirror, like, damn, this
Yeah.
dude's pretty fucking
Dope.
good, because
Yeah.
it's different than what they were doing.
Yeah.
They just came from doing pop
Pop,
with Wade,
which
and
was
that shit's
huge.
full out,
Huge.
big, huge
Absolutely.
lines on the
Yeah.
ground,
And
up,
dropping your
down.
knees and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And this is like smooth soul,
Exactly. Yeah.
like some Fosse type
Right.
lines or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
and damn, the dude's like, he's performing this shit already,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then they come in like 18 minutes in and like, see, we told you, man, this
Right. Right.
motherfucker, he's whatever, da, da, da. And I'm, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna feed his
Right.
ego.
Right. Right.
And and then we finished the shit, whatever. And but what was cool is we did that video. We did the Grammys, Have you ever seen that performance?
Yeah, the one on top of the cars, right? Yeah, of
Yeah, but
course.
with
Yeah,
Rob Vincent and
yeah,
Super Dave and all
absolutely.
the so
Yeah,
we that's right when like we I started like surrounding him with like dope motherfuckers
right,
too and
right,
like
right.
yo, this is what we can
Yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah.
just whatever, not knowing he's gonna go solo shit,
Right,
whatever,
right,
but like he was hanging around us separately as
right.
well outside of the group.
Hmm.
And then we did one other TV show for the group, and then they went on tour and they asked me to like co-direct the tour, and which I didn't know what that was, but I agreed
Hmm.
to it because it sounded big and
Hmm.
cool, and I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, of course I'll do that.
Right,
The fuck is that?
right, right.
Asking my agent like, what is co-directing the tour?
Yeah.
And I didn't stay on the tour. Once it was up, I would just come back every like couple weeks,
Hmm.
look at it, give them notes,
Hmm.
and every time I would come back, I would see this dude get better and better and better. And every time I came back, I would never tell them. So I would fly in, like go put my bags on the bus
Hmm.
without them knowing. Then I would go and literally sit at the front of the house and watch the show.
Right.
And then you like be on the bus when they get on afterwards.
Yeah.
And so there was no show like, yo, Marty's here. We're gonna kill this shit. Like,
Right.
da-da-da.
Right. You were seeing who was on without
Yeah,
knowing that
like
they were
what?
being watched. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, it's not gonna be. It's gonna be
Right.
great every time
Right.
because they're gonna be full out.
Right.
But this dude would get better and better every time. And I remember I would keep coming back home and like telling my girl at the time, like,
Hmm.
yo, this dude is like
Yeah.
still not knowing he's gonna go solo, but
Right.
like, yo, this dude is the truth.
Right.
Like, this dude is fucking nasty.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank God he went solo.
Hey man, I know, right? Exactly. But and then
Absolutely.
and with that too, it, there to me there's almost like a cascade of things that happen. I hope I just used the right word right now. Cascade, like like because with that, this now opens up a whole new lane for you as well to for potential proteges of your own, like coming in what seems like by the masses now, right? Because especially during this time, right? You know, to take a Marty Kudelka class, to take a master class from you in the midst of you doing all this, you know, people are fighting to get in. They're selling out. They're selling out immediately, and not only that, but they're picking up on this new style, little intricacies, little nuances, even the way that you dress at that point in time. It really started to shift a lot of things, and I just want to read. I'm going to read a list right now, okay?
Oh shit.
Because these are people that that you have that I have seen study under you, whether they started knowing you or not, but studied under you, and then eventually uh, was able to work with you and heavily influenced. Okay, and this is in no particular order.
Sure.
And you know, but Nick Bass, Misha Gabriel, Kenny Wormald, David Moore, Brian Tanaka, Natalie Gilmore, Nicole Russo, Sophie Aguirre. I'm sorry, I'm not going to butcher your name, Sophie. You know who I'm talking about. Lindsay Richardson, Ava, Dana Wilson, Mike Riccio, Ivan Kumayev, Lyle Beniga, Ian Eastwood,
Mm.
Sean Evaristo. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that's to me, that's just to name a few. But for those that are watching, YouTube any of those names actually, in any of them, and you can see you can see the influence that the lasting influence that you have left on them, whether it be choreographically, the way that they operate in the world with whether it's choreographing for an artist
Sure.
or the way that they conduct business and stuff like that. So could you just kind of speak on for a moment what it was like, you know, selecting the students that you actually wanted to work with, that you the ones that showed promise and you were like,
Sure.
you know what, you're dope, like.
Yeah, I mean, each and every one of them was a totally different way.
Mhm.
But the first thing as a choreographer that I look for personally, and this isn't for other choreographers necessarily, but
Mhm.
I love it when people can do my shit better than me.
Mhm.
Some people would get other choreographers like be turned off by that or
Mhm.
scared or like
Mhm.
Oh
Threatened,
no,
right? Yeah,
threatened.
right.
Like, yeah, no, no, no. Oh yeah, because I'm a choreographer first, a teacher second, a dancer third. If I have to
Mm-hmm.
put it in a order,
Mm-hmm.
so I look for dancers who can roast me doing my own stuff,
Right,
and all those people that you named can do that,
right,
and that gets me excited.
right.
So it doesn't happen, all the time. Every
Mm-hmm.
class I teach, I don't find one of these people.
Right.
But I met Misha when Misha was like 13 or 14 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I met Dana 14
Mm-hmm.
ish. Randy Kemper was another one. Same thing
Mm-hmm.
from Denver. Tony
Mm-hmm.
Testa. They were all the same age. I
Jillian
met them
Myers,
at the
right?
same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I met Jillian through Monsters when she was a little bit older, but
Okay.
still probably like 16.
Right.
Um, but I mean, all of them were younger.
Right.
Like I think Bass was probably he was grown or whatever,
Right.
But I
Right.
remember the first time that I saw him, I was at class at the Edge. I was teaching, and I seen this dude, and out of the corner of my eye, like through the mirror, he wasn't right next to me, but I was like, I think this dude over here, some white dude over here,
Mm-hmm.
is like killing this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, hey, why? I
Right.
think it was Nicole Hill, and she was an assistant of mine from Dallas who moved here, who was
Mm-hmm.
on Justified tour.
Mm-hmm.
I, I remember telling her, like, yo, next time this group goes, whatever, I'm going to go, watch that dude over there and tell me if he's dope or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to like mad dog him, you know what I
Right.
mean? And after the group, she was like, yeah, that dude is dope. And I was
Right.
like, really? And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to make him nervous. And at the very end, I'm like, just me and you, come here, man. I did this to Misha too, the first time Misha ever took my class.
Right.
And just us, whatever. Like, let's do it. What's your name? He's like, Nick. I'm like, oh, cool, cool. Where are you from? He's Nashville. I'm like, Nashville. Okay,
Right.
all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And we do the routine, and I'm watching him for the first time, and I'm at my face like I'm showing like this shit is easy,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm trying to murder him, and I'm watching through the mirror, and he's like staying
Right.
with me or murdering me,
Right. Right.
and I'm like, holy fuck, this
Right.
dude is the truth. Who
Right.
is it? Nashville? Like I'm having a conversation with myself, and then after we were done, I'm like, hey, cool, nice to meet you, man. Yeah, yeah, you're pretty good, man.
Right.
Like kind of kill him, whatever.
Right.
Literally the next day, I think Janet had an audition
Mm-hmm.
that he ended up booking,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody calls me from that audition, yo, have you heard of this guy Nick Bass? And I was like, I think he took my class last
Yeah.
night, and he's nasty. Yo, this dude just roasted Janet's combination, and then everyone was just supposed to freestyle, and he did like a switch leg leap, landed, did like flares and the windmills, stood
Yeah,
up,
man.
and did some like house shit, all back to back through three different styles, but all really good, whatever. And I'm like, that dude who was at my
Yeah.
class, like,
Yeah.
holy
Right.
shit.
Right.
And then he booked that job. Then he like got
Man, it
left that
just took
job to
right.
go to another job to another job.
Right.
And then true story, we stole him for Future Sex Love Sound. We stole him from Janet.
It's a good
We,
move though. It
yeah,
was a good move. It
I'm
was a
like,
good move though.
we gotta have you,
Yeah,
dog.
man.
So if here's the deal, and it's
Right.
up to you. And he chose to go
Absolutely.
with us, and we went. And
Dog,
sorry,
that's so
Janet.
dope. I
You
mean,
know,
everything worked out for the best. It's all good.
yeah,
Everything worked out for the best. And listen, to me, I say everything worked out for the best because I got to sit back and watch a lot of this happen while I did not know Nick personally. I knew I had met Misha. I'd known Misha. Of course, I was roommates with David Moore.
of course,
Brian Tanaka I'd known from Breed back in the day. So a lot of these people that I just listed, and Ivan, oh my gosh, I've known Ivan
of
since he
course.
was, I think 14, something like that. And it's one thing to say that someone is your idol slash hero, and you'd really like to work with that person. And it's another thing to see somebody actually go through the process of doing so. And I also I got to commend you too, man, because through all of that, and I'd imagine through wading through all of the relationship opportunists that I'm sure tried to get at you. That's a David Moore term, by the way, relationship
Oh yeah.
opportunist. Yeah.
Oh okay.
Like people that's just like, oh,
Sure.
Marty, like,
Yeah.
what can I find that
Sure.
we have in common that we can talk about so we can stay in conversation real quick?
Sure.
And you know what I mean? Like, and be as natural as possible. Um, that the squad that you chose, man, as you can see, they're still flourishing right now.
Sure.
And that I think that speaks a lot to your character and your eye for talent. You know, would you say that you kind of always that you have always kind of had a great eye? Are you easily impressed? Are you not so easily
I'm
impressed?
not so easily impressed.
Okay.
So I don't know about having a great eye, but I definitely, again, it's I've hired a billion more people than those people,
Of
but those
course.
people are so super close,
Yes.
and
Yes.
reliable people who I've worked with.
Right.
And so if you look at it for how long I've been doing this, there's not a huge list. So
Right.
I'm definitely selective,
Mm-hmm.
and I really do feel like I'm fair. And if I'm hiring for a job, I really do feel like I'm not just gonna hire the homies because they're my homies. Like one of
Right.
my best friends, Jimmy Federico, who I
Mm-hmm.
know you know of,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he's one of my best friends in life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kill for this guy, and I met him as him being a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
I've hired him for like 2 or 3 jobs
Right.
in 18 years
Right.
because he's only been right for 2 or 3 jobs.
Right. Right. I see.
Like I feel like I'm very fair. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and if people are doing their job and they're being, I look at people in front of me like Tina and Fatima and Rich and Tone before
Mm-hmm.
I knew them, and I would watch videos and tours and be like, damn, they always hire the same people. Like I knew who Swoop and Ed Moore were, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, certain people
Mm-hmm.
in Roro, and like,
Right. Right.
damn, they're on everything because okay, well, I know Fatima did it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then once I get in the game and start learning and start talking to them, it kind of like it's because they're reliable
Right.
and they can do her shit
Right.
really great.
Right.
She knows they're gonna show up. She knows they're cool. They can kick it. There's
Mm-hmm.
none of this other opportunist
Right. Right.
stuff happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I kind of took that from them too. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I
I
mean?
see. So can you speak on this? And this is going to be one of those statements for the culture, man.
Sure.
Is a how important is it in a place like LA, um, to keep your inner to keep your inner circle to keep your inner circle very selective when usually you come out here, you don't know anyone, so therefore your networking and your young dumb social skills are all over the place,
Yeah.
right? So can you talk about how important it has been for you to keep your inner circle strong and be people that can keep you grounded around you?
Yeah. I think it. I mean, it's super important. I mean, I don't wake up every day and say like I'm not. I got to be
Right, right,
weary of these people,
right,
whatever,
right.
And I think just with life experience, I think just even before I even got into this business, I think that this is one thing that I feel like dancers who are moving out here,
Mhm,
if you've never had a normal job,
mhm,
you should get a bunch of normal jobs.
mm,
Even if it's a week, if it's doing some temp work
mhm,
or whatever, just you need to have that life experience.
mhm,
Like before I moved, I was 24 when I moved.
mhm,
So had from 14 I started my first job ever.
mhm,
So for 10 years I ran a car wash, I did data entry for an
mhm,
insurance agency,
mhm,
I did telemarketing, I had a billion different
mhm,
jobs. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese
mm.
and all
Yep.
these different
Mhm,
jobs helped me in real life
mhm.
and adapt here,
Right,
where so many people move out here nowadays, especially, and because nowadays a lot of people move out here when they're younger,
right,
who've never had a job. Some people may have not gone to school their whole life
right,
and been homeschooled or
right.
whatnot, which great because you get to practice your craft, but
Mhm,
you're also when you get around other personalities on gigs and you're
mhm,
traveling with people and you're living with people
mhm.
from different walks of life who may not care about what you've done
Right,
and your training,
right.
that may become a
Mhm.
problem.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you have, I feel like you need to have these real life
Mhm.
experiences and to make it out here. I
Mhm.
really do, and I feel like that's what helped me not necessarily have a problem. Now I've been burned by people
Right.
well, since I've been here, business wise. I've been burned by people who I let in, like I trust and
Mhm.
cool, cool, cool. But I look at it, it's a learning experience.
Right.
For
Right.
money I may have lost, that
Right.
money was a lesson.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a college degree of
Right.
business 101.
Right. Right.
It sucks I may have lost some money that I shouldn't have,
Right.
but now that will never happen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I've got burned by people who are, supposedly in my inner circle and my friends and
Mhm.
even some people from back home, whatever, that just for one thing or another,
Mhm.
sometimes it's there's jealousy,
Mhm.
sometimes there's just people grow apart.
Mhm.
Some people, you know this now, like we're parents.
Right.
I don't go to the
Right.
club
Right.
and
Right.
go out,
Right.
whatever, if special occasion or something,
Right.
cool,
Right.
whatever. Um, my boy Eddie tonight, like Janet's having an after party tonight after her show tonight, and
Mhm.
he's been hitting me up for 3 days. Dog, you got to come tonight. Da, da, da. So yesterday on the cool, I went and saw him at his rehearsal.
Yep.
Said what's up and hung out
There
for
you
a minute
go.
and talked on his break and da
Yep.
da da da.
Yep.
And said, yo, I'm gonna think about going tomorrow night because if I don't, I already got you
Right.
today.
Right.
Cause I probably ain't gonna go.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's things are
Right.
different. And back, 10 years ago, me and
Absolutely.
him lived in clubs.
Of course.
Like if he was going anywhere, I'm going anywhere, and vice versa.
Yeah, man.
No matter what time of the day, no matter what, no matter who you're dating, no matter what you're doing,
Right.
we're going together. That's
Right.
it.
That's dope.
So people go apart. So I think again, I've been burned by people too, and
Mhm.
whatever. But I definitely feel like my inner circle definitely is
Mhm.
small, and I know who
Mhm.
who I can trust. But there's also people like yourself,
Mhm.
like I don't see Punch and Goof all that often,
Right.
but
Right.
like I know when I see them, when I see you, when I
Mhm.
see Mr. Wiggles,
Right.
when
Right.
I see certain
Mhm.
people, Dave Scott,
Right. Right.
certain
Yeah.
people that we've kicked it enough where I know that we're good people.
Right. Right.
It's like it's not like we haven't seen each
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yeah.
in a few months or a year or whatever. It's
Right.
like, yeah, what's up, fam?
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Everything is normal. And I
Right.
consider that my inner circle
Got
too.
it.
You know what I
Okay. I
mean?
see what you're saying.
Like
Absolutely.
there's the inner circle that you see from day to day or week to week or
Right.
whatever at
Right.
class or whatever, but it's
And there's
bigger
the
than that
extended
too.
one too. You know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Of
yeah, an
course.
extended
Yeah.
one that that are just I know
Just
that
cool
I
people.
know you and I will never have any beef. I
Right.
know
Exactly.
we are always going to be cool and
Right. Right.
respectful and we're going to work together and we're going to,
Right. Right. Absolutely.
whatever. If you
Absolutely.
ask me to come do this, I'm going to come do
Right.
this. When
Right.
I ask you to come do a piece with
Do
me,
carnival. It was awesome. Yeah.
shit, you were perfect for it.
Dope.
You came down, you
Yeah.
did it. That was it.
That's
Call it
dope.
a day, make history, and that's it.
I love it. And then let me speak to that. Make history. And I think I might be maybe 1 for 3 in quoting you in this interview so far, but I know this one's right because I heard you say it, and I just want you to speak on it right now because this is also going to lead into you as a teacher, which is going to kind of close us out. I
Sure.
just want to get some of that philosophy. But you said I make history. I don't follow trends.
Yeah, that's
Can
for
you speak
sure.
on that for a second?
Yeah. And some people nowadays want to take that um, and it's reversed.
Hmm.
I don't
You don't
follow
follow
trends.
trends.
I
I
make
make history.
history.
Got it. Okay.
It's you know all the people wanted when I first said that.
Hmm.
Some people want to turn it into like all the trendy dances and all the whatever, and
Hmm.
it's not about that. Like
Right.
that is were called party dances back in the day
Hmm.
when we were coming up.
Hmm.
Like we're always gonna have those things that people do, whatever.
Right.
Just
Right.
because I don't necessarily put that stuff in my combos or
Right.
whatever,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not hating on it. I think
Right.
it's cool. I think enjoy some of the moves. I enjoy some of the music.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I think it's cute when kids do it.
Right. Right.
Just because I'm not gonna do it all the time, or
Right.
whatever, then cool.
Right.
So talking like making history, like I wanna, you know, I wanna my stuff for people to look at it and be able to say like, that's Marty's stuff.
Right. Right.
So whether it be because of the style that I feel like I created,
Mm-hmm.
whether it, because it's paying attention, it's a musicality thing and paying attention to certain nuances and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
or it's because of the way certain moves look,
Mm-hmm.
because I tried to put in everything from ballet to jazz to
Right.
Fosse type stuff to
Right.
popping to boogalooing to locking influences
Right.
to b-boy influences.
Right.
I try to put everything into everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if that could be making history,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just to be from somebody being able to see it, just like somebody being able to see a painting and that's
Right.
Picasso or
Right.
that. Not
Right.
saying my shit's Picasso, but
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 yeah.
okay, that's what it is.
Right.
That's what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Still
And
giving originality
abs-
and what's yeah.
absolutely. And
Right.
every now and then, like there's a move like in my love that the synthesis, which is a step that everybody and their grandmother can do,
Right.
that was purposely put in to hopefully everybody and their grandmother
Right.
will do it,
Right.
and it worked. But
Right.
I'm scared to do that sometimes because if it doesn't work, that sucks.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I rarely do that. But
Mm-hmm.
but there's a couple of them floating around, and some of them have names, and some of them don't.
Right.
But they're stuff that I created that
Right.
I'll try to put in every so often,
Yeah.
and hopefully people will bite it and put it in other stuff. But hopefully after that, people will know where it came from.
Absolutely. And I think that I mean I think that is going to happen and going to continue to happen because also the way that you teach like your classes and this is bringing a personal experience in here. This was maybe 2006 yeah, about 2006. We still had the dome, right, at
Yeah,
Millennium,
man. Oh,
right?
I got mad footage of you
um
in class.
and
Yeah.
uh and there was a speech that you gave in class, and I'm going to say this too, is that the difference now is there's a lot of class footage going along, and I'm not talking about just your class. I'm talking about in general
I
the
know.
landscape
Yeah.
change, right? So the classroom seems to be a little bit different now, which is a
It's a
huge
lot
which is a
different.
huge topic, right?
Hmm.
And there was a time where you took about maybe 10 to 12 minutes, maybe, like, and just spoke, and the message was that you were seeing a lot of the same people coming back week after week, and they're dancing the exact same as when you saw them come back week after week after week after week with zero growth at all. And put bluntly, you were just like, stop being whack. Like, you know what I mean? Don't bring whackness here. Like, come in
Yeah.
for growth. Like, come
Sure.
in to work
Don't
and
be
do
here
all.
just to be here.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Now, so what can I ask? What do you feel that your responsibility is as a teacher?
My as a teacher, my responsibility is to make people better. I mean,
Mm,
that's just one of them.
mm-hmm.
There's a few,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't try to look at other people's. I do look at other people's classes because that's part of my
Mm-hmm.
job,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't try to compare.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's easy, and it's cut and dry, and I can look past. Everybody has class videos every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
I put some up every now and
Mm-hmm.
then. Millennium puts them up now. They have a
Mm-hmm.
new thing where they have, if you want, you can have people come in.
Mm-hmm.
They provide people. They'll make a YouTube video. You don't have to do anything. They do it all for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can suggest this and, like, hey, I want somebody in my class today.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught twice over the last 2 weeks. The first time I taught, they asked me. I said, nope. The second time I said, sure.
Yeah.
I was just in a good mood that day, too. When
Right.
she
Right.
asked, and I'm like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But I still, as far as like substance of class,
Mm-hmm.
I look past all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I go in and watch people teach before me. I go into my class early.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay late and watch people start their class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just to kind of see I'm super curious who
Right.
warms people up, who doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone is so different. Me particular, I want I understand my choreography is hard.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody coming for the first time, they're not going to get it perfect
Mm-hmm.
unless maybe you are a Nick Bass or
Mm-hmm.
one in a billion. You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, so I want to I don't want to scare those people away,
Right.
and I want to try to find those people and let them know if this is hard, then cool, you're
Right.
doing it right.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
you're not alone.
Right.
Um, those who have been doing it for a little bit, again, I want them to make
Mm-hmm.
leaps and bounds, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are really, really, really serious, I have what's called I don't know. Have you ever been to a pre-class?
I have
Um,
not been to a pre-class. I
okay,
have
so
not.
pre-classes are, it's not an urban myth. It's for real. A
Okay.
pre-class is, I will call a couple of the homies, and like with the like I'll call Ivan,
Ivan.
I'll call Matt,
Mm-hmm.
Tonte, um, Dana, Nat,
Mm-hmm.
the homies, OGs,
Mm-hmm.
inner circles, homies, and then I'll also call people who I feel like really, really, really want to get better,
Mm-hmm.
who are starting to understand it, but they need that next level. They need to be around those
Mm-hmm.
people who already understand it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll pull some of them in there,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
some of them are like green,
Right.
but I'll pull them in there to see what they're made of,
Right.
and I'll teach the combo, at least a little bit of it,
Mm-hmm.
right before my class in another studio. Teach them to it,
Okay.
because then also it gives me time to like go over the counts,
Right.
figure out, well, all right, make sure I know what I'm doing,
Right. Right.
but then also to kind of study them, then what they don't know, or some of them will know by now.
Mm-hmm.
Then once we go into class, then I'm seeing, do they stay the same?
Right.
So I'm looking
Right.
at like three different kind
Got
of
it. Mm-hmm.
people in the same class.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, well, they're just doing it like they were in the pre-class.
Right.
By now, they should be
Right.
roasting this,
Right.
and they should be adding something else and doing this or
Right.
whatever. And okay, cool. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
love to have auditions, because I don't want to waste somebody's time too. If
Right.
I feel like I don't know who's right for the job, I'll I'll have an audition for it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, class is audition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching this every time I teach, or even watching other dancers in other people's class, paying attention to them. Are they getting better? Are they improving? Are they doing these things?
Mm-hmm.
It is an audition.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody asks me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like,
Right.
cool. What should I do? Well,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you, because you need to do it better,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm looking at you to
Mm-hmm.
possibly hire you at some point.
So always be on 10. Like always. I mean. I,
Whatever your 10 is,
yeah.
sure, yeah, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be that dude or girl who is trying to, knowing that, okay, he is looking to hire somebody, I could possibly get a job, but if
Right.
you're not ready yet, and then you try to go extra
Extra.
and you
Extra.
look
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
then I may not ever
I
look
got
at
you.
you
I
again,
got you. Yeah,
you
I see
know.
what you're saying. So with that, what would you can I ask what old I use the word adages, like what old adage, or like, lesson that you used to see in the classroom when when you were taking class,
Mm,
okay? Stuff that you picked up from teachers that were training you that you would like to see introduced into the newer generation that maybe you feel that there might be a lack of.
sure. One big thing is especially if the teacher is a choreographer and somebody you could work for,
Mm-hmm.
is listening to what they say, like
Mm-hmm.
paying attention. If they say, on this part you can improvise and you can do this,
Mm-hmm.
then you can improvise and do that. But then again, you can, if they say improvise, but improvise on this melody,
Mm-hmm.
make this exactly the same,
Right.
then listen, then do that. It's
Right.
not that hard.
Right.
Or if it's Tina Landon saying, I want you to do this exactly like I'm
Like
doing
I'm
it.
doing
Yesterday, the rehearsal I went to, it was Anthony Thomas
it. Mm-hmm.
was doing
Rhythm
Rhythm
Nation.
Nation,
Yeah.
and in the room is Travis Payne, Tina Landon, Eddie Morales. I mean, all the OG
Dope.
Janet people.
Dope.
It was so dope, and they're all performing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just those couple of names,
Right.
right?
Right.
Terry Bixler, who was in the original Rhythm Nation and Miss You Much,
Right.
and Anthony is letting them have it, and he doesn't care who they are.
Right.
He's like, this is how it's done. Do the I don't know why your fingers are like that. Mine were never like I never did and
Wow.
you better do it like
Right.
because he can still do it in rows like it
Right.
and I mean it is beyond exact and
Right.
I'm just sitting there watching and like he would like say something and make a correction and like look at me and wink and like kind of laugh because he knows he's schooling them and
Right.
I'm like
Right.
yes sir absolutely you're right you were right there's a clause right
Right.
there and
Right.
I
Right.
know yeah I'm scared shitless I'm not even doing it like you listen to the
Right.
choreographer and you do that like
Right.
that's what you know
And you feel that's why do you think that might be missing nowadays?
I think my guess is that there's so much freedom in people's
Mm.
choreography these days and
Okay.
I'm a big in every piece that I do you're gonna have pockets where you can freestyle
Right.
most of the time it's to a certain rhythm
Right.
but you're gonna be able to freestyle
Right.
that's my thing
Right.
so I love that
Mhm.
but there's a lot of freestyle before the combo starts, after
Mhm.
the combo's over with, from what I see in other people's classes.
Mhm.
And I feel like I think that's dope,
Mhm.
A, but I feel like because it's so loose and it's so cool and I get it, it's class.
Right.
But whenever the combo starts, you have to be able to separate that if that's what the teacher wants,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, and I know for a fact sometimes when I watch, if I see the teacher do it a certain way,
Mhm.
and then I see the students do it 18 billion different other ways,
Right.
then I can tell whether it's supposed to be like that or
Right.
not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
and I think it's just because of the freedom, maybe before and after,
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
you know, or
Kind of bleed
whatever. I could be wrong, but
might bleed a little bit into the combo
sure,
rather. I
like I
got it.
can just do whatever,
Right.
you know,
Right.
like
Right.
cool. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change that.
Mhm.
But like, if you take those dancers, some of them I just named, like the Kelly Konos
Mhm.
and you taught them the exact, if they were in that class, they would be able to freestyle and do all that and then make that look how it's supposed to look,
Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah, man.
But it's a different time.
It's a different time, absolutely. And now, in this different time, has being a husband and a father,
Mm.
has it changed your outlook and your creative process at all?
I think so. Um, it's weird with my kid, like being a father for sure. I mean, sorry, being a husband first for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it's just a different, just to say that word now it feels come. I've been a husband
It's
for a
been for a
long time,
while, right? Yeah.
but you know, when it was new, especially like that's my woman, that's
Right.
my wife, and you
Right.
know, cool. Especially if I'm creating something and it's
Right.
you know how about love or whatever, you know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean? Like it means something more, obviously. Um, and having a kid too, she's at the age now where you know she's still if she'll watch me dance and watch me do things, but
Mm-hmm.
she's not to the age yet where it's like that's my dad.
Right.
Like
Right.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's cool or
Yeah.
what you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
she wants to dance.
Right.
So it's
That's dope.
but it's so dope, you know.
Yeah. Of
Like
course. Of course.
so yeah, definitely it changed and it's cool. It's funny too, like when now she kind of gets embarrassed to dance in front of me.
Right.
She'll dance in front of my wife, but
Right.
now she kind of understands what I do a little bit more, and she is gets shy at first,
Right.
and I'm like, come on now,
Right.
don't get
Exactly.
out of here, don't
Right.
be, you know. But it's cool.
Yeah.
Like I went and taught her preschool last year for the spring show. I taught a class to the like troll song,
Oh.
like a master class, and I brought Ivan, who actually was like Branch in the movie,
Right.
did
Right.
all you know, so
Right.
they think he's Branch now,
Right.
and Natalie, who played some as well,
Yeah.
a couple different characters, and then I went back a second time for one of the other shows and did like a Jackson 5
Right.
song for their show and choreographed like a little number for their
Right.
class or
Right.
whatever and like she thought it was cool then that
Right.
my daddy's coming to do this,
Right,
and
because
like
now her peers are involved,
yeah,
right?
so
So it's
yeah,
like,
it's
yeah,
daddy, and staying on me the whole time. Yeah, it's just okay, yeah, okay, my daddy did this,
that's
my
awesome.
dad. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah, it wouldn't change it for the world, man.
That's fantastic, man. And two more things I want to ask about.
Sure.
Hey, can you talk? Can you kind of just lightly touched on it, but you choreographed the Trolls movie, right? It was
Yeah.
was this your first animated feature that you choreographed?
Was it first animated? Uh, I've done CGI stuff
Okay,
before,
okay.
definitely, but I think it was the first animated movie.
Oh,
Yeah, and what's crazy is it wasn't CGI,
mm-hmm.
which was have you ever worked on
I
where they
have.
just draw it
Mm-hmm.
real?
I have.
That
Yeah,
shit is
it's crazy.
crazy.
It's
Yeah,
nuts.
like when they first came in to film the dancers, and there's no CGI.
Right,
Well, that by that point I knew they had explained it to me, but I still was like, I'm missing something.
right.
And then they come in with just normal cameras and film it, and then take it
Take
back
it back to the
and
artist, and they're just
artist, and
like,
they watch it and draw it, and I'm like, y'all motherfuckers are
yeah,
crazy.
like,
How like y'all got too much time on
right,
y'all's hand. Like y'all, no, what? Like there's no way
right,
that
right,
And then once you see it play out, like cool, you could definitely tell like they spent more time on certain stuff where I'm
right,
like,
right,
oh, you can really tell that's my shit.
right. Absolutely, man.
They spent time on this.
Yeah,
Other ones they took some liberties, and they may have made it
right,
easier than it was and cool,
right.
but hey, but I did my job, they did their job, and
That's really
that
dope.
was a really
That's
cool
awesome.
thing to be a part of, and
That's great.
even though I never want to hear that song again.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I think it hit the waves pretty hard, bro. It was like it was.
Yeah, man. And it's never going away
No,
either.
no, no,
It's
no.
gonna
Yeah, it ain't nothing wrong with that though. It's all right.
I
It's all
know, but
right.
man.
Lastly, man, can you just lightly talk about team roast for me real quick? You
Yeah.
know,
No one ever
um,
asked about that.
I know, and that see, I'm
You
prepping for
did your
this interview
homework.
this week. I was like, I kind of want to know, and even and me, I'm a little more curious about it too because I feel like a lot of team roast is like in my peer group, right? But I still kind of don't know what it is and
See,
like
yeah,
and where it started, what it
so Team Roast is really only four people. It's myself, it's Eddie Morales, it's Little C, and it's K Mel. So
Wow.
Team Roast got started where it was we were training a lot together, hanging a lot together,
Mm-hmm.
and us four, and it was K Mel was the b boy, Little C was the crumper,
Mm-hmm.
I was the choreographer, and Eddie was the dancer.
Right.
So it was like we would show up to clubs or this and that, and
Right.
like not that there's other crews or whatever, you
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
we were
Right.
like
So
when
kind of a
we would
crew,
have a little
like
get
yeah,
down, like we were like always us four. We were inseparable for
yeah,
like a couple of years, and it was like, damn, we're really well rounded. Like this
yeah,
is
man,
what's up.
yeah.
Like okay, cool. And then Team Roast, I don't know the name and yada yada, but whatever. But that became Team Roast,
Got it.
and then there became like people who were a little bit not outside,
All right.
but our homies too that we would get down with, like Legacy
Right. Right.
and like
Yeah.
Flea Rock,
Uh huh.
and then whatever, and
Wow.
like we were like, okay, yeah, Team Roast. Then they start saying Team Roast, and then we like, okay, cool, cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are they okay? Yes,
Right.
okay, I
Right.
guess, or whatever.
That's what's up.
Then it got out of hand.
Yeah. Team
The,
roast is huge right
T-
now. Team
yeah,
Team roast is huge.
it's I still like to only say it's four of us, but there is a lot of people who say
Yeah.
Team Rose who are even like the inner circle people or whatever that
Right. Right.
I will let that fly because if they're in that circle,
Yeah,
they
man.
are part of it in one way or another.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? But the OG Team Roast is just us four,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that's why K Mel can walk into that audition
Yeah.
out of nowhere, just got off the plane,
Right.
walk straight in there, and just
The group stop.
Yeah,
And
and rec shop, and
absolutely,
it's, you know what I mean, and it's
yeah,
and Justin Nardi was homies with him, and
right.
like it's just that's team roast.
That's
That's what
awesome.
we do
That's awesome. Shout out Team Roast, man.
all
Shout
day,
out.
man.
Yeah, listen, and I just want to thank you again for
Absolutely,
coming
my
by,
brother.
brothers. We covered so much, man. And listen, man, you and I have had two very different career paths. I think you and I actually have never worked together. We've
Except for the
doing
carnival,
carnival
because I
there. Yeah,
consider that work.
exactly. Yeah, like we've but I've always been a fan, and I've always been watching and felt like still strangely connected because the homies might have been. I get to see them on stage with Justin and them in class with you, collabing with you, things like that, man. And I gotta commend you on being one of the realest dudes, man. You know what I mean? You've been the
You
same
too,
cat that
you too,
I
brother.
met. That I met the same guy that came by to
To
our
your
apartment
crib,
session.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. And
just to
Boogie Zone,
just to
and
put lightly, you guys, like just to touch on that really lightly. Before Twitch was Twitch, like working professionally. Before David Moore was who he was and all that, Marty still came by our crib. Like after class one day on a whim, we were like, hey, after class we're gonna freestyle it. And granted, class ended at like 10 o'clock. Like,
later
you know
than
what I
that,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And we're like, yo, we're gonna be freestyling at the crib. Do you want to come by? And he was like, sure. And in that moment, again, holding his G's, we're like, oh, cool, all right, cool. You know what I mean? And I just got to tell you, man, it's little moves like that, man, that mean so much, that go a very long way and speak volumes to your character, volumes, brother. And I appreciate you more than you know, man. Thank you so much for coming to
Thank
the
you,
lab,
brother.
brother.
I
I
feel the
appreciate you
same,
so
man.
much, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And before we go, where can we find you, man? Like, where with socials? Yeah.
I'm on Instagram and Instagram only, Mr. Kudelka, Mrkudelka.
Boom.
Holla at your boy
Holla at your boy. Team Roast.
all
I'm just
day.
a Team Roast affiliate with a microphone. I'm just like
That's no, please. This
Team
fool
Roast.
don't get it twisted. Well, I needed him. That was a good. You came out,
Yeah, man.
Dana, Ivan.
Whew.
That's
Purple
a
Rain.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
to Prince.
Absolutely.
That's a foursome right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%,
man.
man. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Until
Thank
next
you,
time,
man.
man. Much love, brother.
Yes, sir. Later. Peace out.
Peace.